Hello.
Hello.
Thanks everyone for coming. Just briefly, I'll take this opportunity to apologize for missing the last one. I think I was slated to talk at the last one. Do I have to be right up on this thing, or can I get back? Okay.
They
You
send
can
it
take it.
upward.
I might do the celebrity thing. I've always wanted to do the stand-up comic thing. I'm going to do this and walk around. I'm kind of a joker. But a quick apology for last time. I wasn't able to make it. We had some police stuff going on, and actually that day ended up losing one of my best friends in the world. So it was a pretty tragic day. I drove over to Coquille and helped load him up because he was a firefighter, and we escorted him to the mortuary, gave him a police and fire escort. So I had a pretty good reason for not being here. I wasn't just kind of not showing up. So my apologies for that. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Chief Dhillon. I'm Chief of Police here in Bandon for 3.5 years now. Took over for the much famous Bob Webb, which I'm sure everybody in here knows Bob Webb. Still keep in touch with him. He's a great guy. He did a really good job for Bandon, and every day I try to fill his shoes. And we made a lot of changes at the police department. We're kind of modernizing in a lot of ways, but we are pretty happy. We're running at 8 officers total now. We probably, if you keep up with Facebook or the news, you see we just added our 2nd sergeant. We got a little heavy in the officer department. Your average police department here in Coos County, a sergeant will oversee 2 or 3 officers. OSP, Sheriff's Office, Coos Bay are all like that. We were, looking at Sergeant Whitmer overseeing 4 or 5 officers, which is a lot. If you think about a supervisor, if any of you are in a supervisory position, whatever your prospective job is, you supervise individuals usually 9 to 5, 8-hour period, whereas in our line of work, it's a 24-hour job. You have officers on 24 hours, so those problems come 24/7. So for one sergeant to manage, 5, 6 people 24/7 can really wear on them. So I came up with the idea that we would add another sergeant, and after I'm done with the mic, if you want to ask me how I paid for it, I'll tell you, but I'm not going to announce it. No cost to the taxpayer whatsoever.
Okay.
But, yeah. So so the status of Bandon Police, we're really tooling along. We're modernizing. We have a very young officer corps. Like I said, I don't know how many of you met our officers, but I think with the exception of Officer Carpenter, who's been here 6 years, everybody was hired in 2023. So that gives you an idea of basically how young they are. So we have our National Night Out coming up, August 5th. Everyone's aware of that, right?
Yeah.
Free food and prizes. Coast Guard will be landing. Got an axe throwing trailer, which I'm a little nervous about. See how that works out. We are doing away with the dunk tank because we were getting some cold weather casualties from the people who had to be in the water. So yeah, it should be a good time. If you've never been, it's August 5th at City Park from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Free hamburgers, hot dogs. It'll be a good time. All the police officers will be out there. A lot of raffle prizes, bunch of bikes for kids. We've been a little light on the prizes this year. We're trying to make up some ground. In the past, we've done like barbecues and chainsaws and a bunch of stuff for the kids. This year we have a lot of kids prizes, but not a lot of adult prizes. So if anyone has any prize suggestions or donations, get a hold of me. But yeah, that'll be August 5th. Other than that, I will open it up to questions. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions. If you're going to yell at me about speed in your neighborhood or transients, just get ready. I might throw this thing at you. But the court will stop it, so you're safe. But yeah, I may not have all the answers, but we'll try. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, inquiring minds.
Talk loud.
Uh-oh, she's got a card.
Say it loud, please.
Okay, inquiring minds want to know what's going on with the owner of the West Coast Game Park. Is he in jail? If not, why not?
Okay, so the question was, what's going on with the owner of the South Coast Game Park? First of all, I'm going to throw out one of my favorite answers, not a Bandon Police problem, Coos County Sheriff's Office problem. But yeah, we were there. So I'll just give you a little bit of background on that. I was made aware of that about a week before. It was an extreme. I was told it would be one of the largest police operations in Oregon history, and I think it was. We went in when we went to the Department of Human Services for the briefing. We were in a room about this big, and it was filled with cops, and the walls were lined with cops. And I was like, holy smokes! I didn't realize it was that big of a deal. So federal agents descended on the park. I'm sure you guys all know the story by now. It was a lot of things from animal abuse, tax evasion, narcotics, etc. It is an open investigation, so I'm not going to comment too deeply on it, but he is not in prison currently. He's not in jail currently. So he was charged with a bunch of crimes. But if I can explain it in layman's terms, from the drug perspective, he was charged very quickly. But if you don't know, Oregon doesn't make drugs a huge priority, so that's working its way through the criminal justice system. Now the federal things with the animals, my impression is the Attorney General, one of the Attorney Generals was there. That's going to take quite a while to materialize because all the animals were dispersed all over the country. So if I have a buffalo that's injured and it's being abused, let's say, the difference with animals, it's very hard to prove animal abuse. Because they can't talk to you, I mean, they might look emaciated and skinny, but let's just take that buffalo is not being treated well, not being fed. It goes to Colorado. It's probably going to go through a 6-month program in Colorado where its nutrition is evaluated, they do blood work, they do all these things, to get all this data, high-tech veterinarian stuff, and then those reports will make them back to the Attorney General here in Oregon. So if you multiply that times however many animals to however many states, it's a logistical investigative nightmare. So it's probably going to take a year or two before those charges make their way over to eventually where he'll see some prison time. If he's found guilty by a jury of his peers.
Yeah, do you keep track of him? Is he out on bail? Do you know where he is?
So the question was, do we keep track of him? Is he out on bail? He has the same constitutional rights as anyone else. There's no legal precedent for law enforcement to keep track of him. But I think he was, I don't know if he was let out on bail or he was released on his own recognizance. Here in the state, again, the state of Oregon does not prioritize drugs. So,
wasn't he released on a Senate Bill 48? The new Senate Bill 48.
Was he?
That's what he was released on.
I don't know. Again, this wasn't a Bandon case, so if it was Bandon officers that dealt with it, I probably have a little bit more information. But it was a state police federal investigation.
What is 48, Mary?
Well, they have to allow them to release to post bail. I think. Look it up.
Bail reform.
Yeah.
Because it's only an Oregon law. It's not
Yeah.
a federal law. Senate Bill 48.
Yes, ma'am.
If he's found guilty, will that whole, his property be taken by the RICO Act?
That's up to the feds. The question was, if he's found guilty, will his property be seized by the RICO Act? So the RICO is reference to organized crime. That's a federal decision. That's really not our decision. I'm not aware of if they're looking at him for those charges or not. I know he's got quite a bit on his plate legally, going back way before this. So, and again, all of it is not Bandon Police. It's Sheriff's Office was dealing with some stuff. ATF was dealing with some stuff for weapons. DEA and Scent was dealing with it for some drugs. A lot of different entities are exploring him.
And the gun. Don't forget the gun.
And that'd be ATF. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Got to be more.
Bail reform. I talking to people in Bandon, I don't think a lot of people in Bandon understand the bail reform. Basically, unless you've done a very violent crime,
Exactly.
you're going to be bailed out. So,
You're not going to be bailed out. You're going to be released.
Release. Okay,
Yeah.
so jail overcrowding has always been a big issue here. It seems to me that bail reform has taken that problem to a certain degree off it because you're not locking anybody up. You get your car stolen, the guy's going to be out that day on bail. I asked the sheriff when he was here, well, what's the situation with people convicted and then going to jail locally here. And he said he had no idea.
It's not much better because there's no space. Yeah, to give you a little perspective, yesterday at lunch, I live in Coquille, and my wife came home for lunch, and we were going on a walk around this gorgeous day, and we were walking around the GP lot. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. And we ran into a parole and probation officer, and just had a quick conversation with him, shared, pleasantries, and he complimented me on my officers and how they're doing, communicating with him in his office. And I said, there's multiple parole and probation officers. And I said, well, I won't say what I said, but I'm like, who are your problem children in Bandon that you supervise? And he named off a particular name who I'm very familiar with. And I said, oh yeah, we just dealt with him last week. We had to chase him down the street, blah, blah, blah. And he goes into his parole and probation speech. He's like, yeah, he's a pain, blah, blah, blah. I've got court on him next week. I'm gonna recommend he gets 360 days in jail. He puffs out his chest. And I said, well, how much is that in Coos County time? And his chest goes, about a week. So,
About a week.
yeah, and that's someone who's been convicted, is on parole. So. I don't have a great answer to that. The sheriff has tried multiple times to get a levy to get more jail space. So some of the complexities of that are just, we could talk about that for hours and hours. Bandon, the mayor might actually be able to speak to this a little better. For Bandon residents, it was not a great idea because of our way our tax situation is. And that's a very complex subject, but it would literally, if we voted for it, we would have capped out where we wouldn't be able to impose any tax on the citizens of Bandon in the near future. So it's a tricky thing. I don't know. I guess I kind of talked in circle on your question. What was your original question?
Well, I believe it's up for, at least it's going to be on the ballot. They're pushing to get the signatures right now to put it on the ballot, like they did with the drug
for another
reform.
jail levy? Or
for bail reform.
Yeah, so quite honestly, bail reform's not the problem we're dealing with right now. Culturally, we're dealing with a huge problem with mental health, jail space or prison space, drug addiction, and homelessness. That's a lot of what our problem comes down to. Honestly, I don't, in my humble opinion, bail is not really, it's not a big issue right now.
Well, if you
Because
talk to a citizen and you ask them, if your car gets stolen, the guy's out that day at Ray's shopping, that upsets
that's not
me.
bail though. That's not, they're not getting bailed out. They're just getting straight up released without ever seeing a judge and getting bail.
So is that because we don't have enough prosecutors?
That's part of the problem. We don't have enough prosecutors, we don't have enough public defenders, and we don't have enough jail space. It's a bunch of different
Can
problems.
we get our own jail here in Bandon?
Oh boy.
Oh, right, we used to.
That's quite a budget. We have one actually. We have a 2-cell jail cell. It's filled with old rusty guns right now. But yeah, no, I understand. Trust me, I understand the frustration because you as the citizens are frustrated with how it goes. For just a minute, think about us when we respond to a call and husband beats up wife and she's scared and crying, and we look in her eyes and we say, I'm going to make you safe, I'm going to make you safe, I'm going to solve this problem. And I take him to jail and he gets released before I can get back to town. That's something we deal with on the daily. I've arrested the same guy 3 times in one day for basically a similar crime. And that doesn't have anything to do with bail. It's just...
Can I ask you this then? They also reformed releasing photographs of somebody that's been...
Correct.
Right.
Unless they've already been arrested on a previous crime.
So it's not necessarily if they've been released, it's if they pose a danger to the public.
Okay.
So we have a little bit of discretion there. I think we've probably, under my 3 years, we've released a few photos here and there where they're a danger to the public.
I would like to see the Bandon Police Department do more with Facebook. If they're going to let people out as soon as they've done a crime,
Exactly.
socially we can impose more on that person than the courts can apparently.
What are you suggesting?
If somebody does a crime in Bandon and you just see the guy's name, and I want to see his face. And I want to see.
Can't do the face. We've been clear about that.
I believe if he's been convicted of a previous crime and you have a previous photograph of him, you can use that one.
I would consult the city attorney. I'm don't believe that's accurate, but I wouldn't argue with it. I don't think that's the case. I don't know of much else that's being done in that regard. From my understanding is if they pose a danger to the public, then release their photograph. But I don't know for sure. We can look into that.
Well, can you do more on Facebook to?
What do you have in mind? I guess.
I don't know. It just seems.
So I will tell you this. To be fair, I think like the sheriff's department, they post every time one of their officers orders lunch. They post everything on there.
They send out a press release.
We used to be that way, and we kind of went away from it about the time they started taking the photos away. We could consider we actually do a lot more than probably you guys realize. We arrest people pretty much every day. We do not post it on Facebook. You're right. We could probably do better in that regard. I think COVID, we kind of got away from it. We could explore getting back to that if that's something the public wants to see. If you want to know every single time someone's arrested. I mean, maybe a little bit of public humiliation, to your point, a little bit of public humiliation, because the courts aren't doing it, the jails aren't doing it. Maybe that would be something.
I think most of us are living in an ignorant bliss.
Yeah.
I have a relevant resource to share.
You have a relative resource to share?
Relevant.
Go ahead.
So if you go on CoosMostWanted.com, citizens have taken it upon themselves to post the mugshots and the histories of almost everyone who's arrested. And you
Wow.
can navigate this website and see how people repeat their crimes over and over. And also there's some social commentary that our officials unfortunately are not able to make, but we the citizens can talk about when someone's terrorizing the community. And so CoosMostWanted.com is a resource, as well as the Facebook group Coos County Neighborhood Watch.
Everybody hear that? Yeah. I didn't know that. It's a good. I'm not a Facebook social media guy. Back to your point, so that's something I could probably improve on. Facebook stuff.
Well, being a long-time reporter, like 60 years, even if you did half as much as the sheriff's office, when you had, a major wreck where there's injuries, I have to call you at home, and I know you don't appreciate it, but I appreciate the fact that you get the information, because I'm really the only, outside of Facebook, the only news source there is.
Right.
And people deserve to know, particularly when these people are going to be released over and over and over again. So if you've got a burglar in your neighborhood, you need to know it. You need to know whether you're safe or not. And if we could just get, in the old days, like the Coos Bay World, they have police reports from every city except Bandon. Bandon gives no information out to the world, to anybody. The city council, we used to get, at least we got the date and whether it was they didn't necessarily give the names, but we got the incident, the address, the time. We don't even get that anymore.
Right.
Okay, so we've got
I'm not sure why that stopped.
I don't either,
honest.
but we've got to do
It's not something
better.
I did. I think I'd probably go back to. I don't know
I
why
think it
COVID
had to do with a computer upgrade or something, but we need to do better.
That could be.
need to do
We've
better.
actually changed systems
Yes.
3 times in the last.
This has been a couple of
something.
years or so.
So to the Madam Mayor's point, she was just saying more information. Now, as far as like the releases, that would be pretty hard to track. That's the sheriff's office thing. Once we take them to the jail and the jail releases them.
I don't think we need, anybody can look on Coos County website and find out who's in
The
jail.
jail
So
roster,
they'll know
yeah.
whether they're in jail or not.
Yeah,
That's
I
easy.
mean, typically if you look at the sheriff's office post, and I'm not trying to bash the sheriff's office, but I think monthly they do that post. 176 people
Yeah.
booked, 177 people released. So
Exactly.
like he was saying, unless it's a serious crime, most
Yeah, they
property
don't hold
crimes and drug crimes, they're going to be released. It's when you get into the
Yeah.
more physical, person-on-person crimes, likely they'll be held, but that's not a guarantee. Yes, ma'am.
Back to the picture issue. Is it possible for the victim or a neighbor or somebody who's seen it, can we take a picture
Yeah.
of them and post it?
So yeah, you that would fall under your First Amendment right. If you want to post something on social media, that's perfectly within your rights. I will caution you on if you're the victim of a crime. So this is something we run into quite a bit, whether it's a business or an individual. Like last week, we took a report of a stolen motorbike, little fancy motorcycle. And the victim called us, and we took the report and everything, and then the officers circulate the pictures of the bike or the motorcycle so we can go find it. If just Joe Schmo on the street puts it on Facebook, hey, my bike was stolen, and it gets out there, well, that suspect is going to dump the bike immediately, and we're not going to catch it. I mean, it could solve the problem. It's kind of a tricky thing. I've seen businesses do it. They'll post a picture, hey, this person just came in and stole 10 cordless drills. And someone might note, oh yeah, that's Joe Schmo from down on 4 Mile. It does solve the problem. We have solved a lot of crimes via social media, but it also can create problems because Joe Schmo might see it and ditch those cordless drills in the woods, and we never catch him with them, and then he comes up with some, so it's
Catch
6,
22.
half dozen, one.
Of course, if you do catch him, he's not going to go to jail. And that's the problem. I would hate to be a police officer in these times.
It's very difficult.
I could not imagine
not gonna lie, it's,
going through what you guys go through and the trauma and the drama, and to have them released and beat you back to town. I mean, it's just such a...
There was an incident a while back. Again, this is going to sound like a sheriff's office beat you, but we would take suspects to jail, and the jailers would speak down to us like, I don't know why you guys are even bringing them in here. You know we're going to release them. And I told the deputy, I'm like, you know what? I go, this family was in Subway and they were having a meal, and this guy comes in and starts thrashing the place and peeing in the corner. So I arrested him and brought him to jail. It solved the problem, albeit temporary, but put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
You go out to dinner at Subway with your wife and your kid, and some jerk comes in and starts throwing things around and starts peeing on the table next to you. The officer shows up and goes, I'm not taking you to jail, they're just going to let you out, and he walks out.
Right.
What are you going to think about that officer? And the deputy's eyes kind of glazed over. He's like, oh, I guess I get that. But it's a tricky world right now. It is. The officers, we have an extremely good core of officers right now, and I really believe they do their best every day. And it is very difficult because I don't know if you've ever seen that cartoon it's like a black and white cartoon of the mouse. He's at the dam, and the dam gets a crack in it, and he puts his finger in it, and 3 other cracks.
Yeah.
And he does this, and that's law enforcement right now. We try to poke a hole with this transient camp, and it disperses and moves over here and 2 other, and so yeah.
I think the homeless situation has gotten better in the last year. It seems. I'm on Riverside Drive.
Or they're
it's a
in the
constant
woods.
parade.
It's a ebb and flow. It really is. It's this. We have about probably 10 to 15 of the same ones, and they move from spot to spot to spot to spot. And I mean, myself and the mayor, we've had I don't know how many conversations and emails about this. And I just saw something the current president, came up with some. What do they call that? Presidential directive to help with it.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's going to entail yet. It's too early, but so we can start taking people on mental holds a little bit
I don't
more.
think it's going to apply to Oregon.
Yeah, I don't. And it comes down to facilities. Bay Area Hospital for mental health, I think they have 5 beds, for the whole county.
Yeah.
So I can tell you right now, there's probably 10 times that many just in Bandon.
I had a drug-addled homeless guy lighting a fire last August on the corner of my property, and I caught him lighting the fire, and he was tweaking so bad that he said he was doing it because he was tweaking. So I told him, I said, well, I'm officially trespassing you from Riverside Drive. And he goes, you are? And I go, yeah. Now, in order for this to work, you have to repeat after me. I got to repeat it. And I didn't see him for a year. I saw him a few weeks ago, and I yelled at him. I said, you've been trespassing. He goes, I'm leaving.
Hey, I strongly encourage that.
Can I share on that subject, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to stand up so that way I don't have to yell as loud.
You're fine.
Okay.
Just don't make any furtive movements. Make me nervous.
So my name's Nicholas Joel Farrar. I love living in Bandon. I moved here from Paradise, California, which is a town that got wiped off the map in one day. And I watched Chico, California devolve into an extremely inhospitable environment because of a coalescing homeless transient situation where people felt unsafe to be in their neighborhoods, in their parks. It went from a very beautiful place to a place where people, including myself, fled from that area. And what I saw happen there, I see happening bit by bit in this community. So I live in the vicinity of Tenant's Hardware. I don't know if there's anyone in this room that maybe lives on Ohio or near the Oddfellows Hall or Bill Creek, but all of those areas currently have encampments, including right next to the Oddfellows Hall where children gather for classes. And 30, 50 yards in the woods, there are gatherings of homeless people. And I don't want to disparage people who are in financially destitute situations or situations of mental illness. And I also want to make it clear, I have the utmost respect for law enforcement doing the best you can, where you're putting a finger in every crack of the dam. And it's truly, and I'm a hopeful person, but as far as the Oregon government, it's a hopeless situation. And Chief, I don't know if you recall our situation where we met before, but it was when I had to run a trespasser off my property. And so the last time you saw me, I was in my pajamas holding a loaded .357. And that is the type of situation.
That was a mentally ill transient. I remember that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was during a situation where there was such a large encampment that these people were going around in pairs or a dozen at a time, threatening the local neighbors. And it was only through a show of organized force by the neighbors before I actually moved in that ran them out. So unfortunately, what I see time and time again is that through the ineptitude of the legislature and through these politicians who think they know what's going on at the ground level, that they're hamstringing the law enforcement who are just trying to do their best in a very, very difficult situation. And so I'd encourage everyone in this room that if we're looking to a force who is already maxed out, and I give you credit, you are doing everything you can, and there are just not enough officers, and there's the protocol for how things would be handled doesn't exist anymore. So in the modern world, it requires modern solutions. And so having documentation on Facebook of when things happen, when communities talk together and let each other know, when I believe his name was, and forgive me if I'm misquoting this, I don't want to disparage anyone, I believe it was Matthew Storm, stole a car, fled on foot, and I get to find out that this man broke into my neighbor's home on Mother's Day and assaulted this family right across the street from me. I find out about that on Facebook. And I find out about other stuff via Facebook. And unfortunately, when there's a lockdown, because right now there's not a full utilization of social media by public officials, and there's also the difficulties that the politicians have put in place for utilizing those services, that I don't find out about lockdowns until after they happen, and I find out via Facebook from citizens. So I'd just like to encourage everyone, get to know your neighbors, and let's figure out a way to share information in a unified way, because otherwise we're all scattered and we're powerless. And this is our earthly authority to follow. But earthly authorities are human, just trying to do their best. So thank you for what you're doing, Chief.
Sure. Extremely flawed, too. Me, myself. But no, everything he said, for the most part, was accurate. Just a couple things I'll touch on what he was mentioning. In reference to a lockdown, we're typically not going to do some sort of lockdown in a community. I mean, it's possible, but lockdown is generally going to be businesses and schools and stuff like that. But I recall that, and actually, if I recall correctly, that was Sheriff's Office and Oregon State Police and Bandon Police caught him and solved the problem. So I do recall that. That was a very violent, rough encounter. That could have gone really bad, and I'm sorry for your family and what they had to deal with. And a lot of, I think even the officers were kind of, afterwards I talked to one of the officers and he was really, really worked up, and he was like, "Oh, chief, I busted him in the head with my baton." I'm like, "No, you tried to subdue him, and your baton hit him in the head." Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm like, "Oh, calm down." And then,
Share really quickly. That person who assaulted one of my neighbors, I had to go through the Facebook history of the Bandon PD Facebook page to go back 2 years ago when they legally could share the mugshots, and that's how I knew what that guy's face looked like, so that I'd be able to be aware of him again. So that really illustrates the hamstrung problem here.
Yeah.
and to your point, and back over to his point, had that guy got away, I think that would have been a perfectly appropriate opportunity for us to post his. If he's going to break into people's homes and assault them, I think that's perfect example where we could post his photo. And I'll get to you in just a second. I'm going to circle back to homelessness real quick, because I want to try and educate you guys as quickly as I can. When it comes to the homeless stuff, and that's a battle we've been fighting, and Supreme Court kind of backed us up recently, but anytime they make a decision, that stuff it takes a while. But just a brief piece of advice on the homeless stuff, so people are educated. If you have a homeless encampment on your property, and it's property you own and you have constructive control of, you can call, and you don't want them there, that's an easy fix. You can call us and we can kick them out that minute. If you see a homeless camp that's on property that you do not own, things are a little more complicated. We have to, because most likely they're not legally there, but they still have constitutional rights. We have to figure out whose property that is, how long they've been there, et cetera, et cetera. So we get this call every day. There's a transient on X property. And usually the first question we're gonna ask is, do you own that property? Well, no, it's my neighbor's property. I understand you're doing the right thing. I'm totally with you, but legally, we can't do anything unless the owner of the property calls. So you might call and express concerns over a transient camp right across the street, and you may not see an officer show up, but that's not because we don't want to help. We don't want to get the transients out of your neighborhood, but legally, if this piece of steel right here is the property line, I own this, Mary owns that, and there's transients on Mary's property, I have no legal authority to do anything about that. You can still call, get it on our radar, we'll pass it down to officers. We can even try to seek out, find that property owner and find out, but it's Bandon, probably 40 to 50% of the property owners.
Outside owner.
Yeah, don't live here, they live in California. So, just kind of store that in your mind, that you might call, you may not see an officer show up. Please don't take that as we're blowing you off. It's just one of those things, it's a legal thing. We don't know who owns the property, or we leave a message for them and they don't call us back. We need to be able to articulate that person is not supposed to be there. 95% of the time, they're not supposed to be there, but we have to check that box before we can go there and forcibly remove someone. So, a little bit on homelessness. Yeah, I'm sorry, I think she was first. I'll circle back to you. Yes, ma'am.
I think that if there was really good coverage on Facebook, and somebody in your office would know how to do that, then when we read about...
What do you mean by really good coverage?
Well,
News.
More incidents reported.
Right, okay.
Okay? And then if the general population that reads that calls, like the governor or,
So I'm getting a pretty generalized opinion that you would like to see more information,
Yes.
press release, Facebook.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Allow commenting.
Noted.
Right now,
Well, so, okay, we currently have our comments on, but if you notice, a lot of other law enforcement agencies have eliminated that. I don't know, if we go, that's a slippery slope.
It is.
Because what I've seen other agencies do is that breeds vitriol, that breeds hatred, and that breeds vigilante justice. So right now we have our comments on, but if we go back to the format of putting a lot of information out there, and this will come down to the attorney. This won't be my decision, but I think I'm not a Facebook guy or person. Don't all the other agencies have eliminated their comments?
Hit and miss.
Is there? You seem like you're the guy who Who has? I know the sheriff's office has theirs off.
Some do. I've tried to comment on Bandon stuff. There's times where it's not allowed. Unfortunately,
Really?
it could be a situation where you're trying to allow it, and
As far as I know, the comments are. I don't know, but I feel like the comments are allowed. But I
someone
don't know.
needs to be Facebook adept and handling things, because in our age, without a daily newspaper in town, Facebook is the centralized source of information and is incredibly fractured. And
Yeah.
I'm also wondering, in terms of jurisdiction, are you allowed more leeway during fire season when these transients are lighting fires in our very dry forests? And I say that as someone who fled a fire that destroyed my town.
So let's touch real quick on the jurisdiction thing. It's a question we get quite a bit, and I was actually discussing it earlier. Jurisdiction is more or less a myth, so to speak. Any peace officer in the state of Oregon has authority in the state of Oregon. I can go to Portland right now and arrest people and write citations. So jurisdiction, where jurisdiction comes in is workload. We typically try not to get overwhelmed with sheriff's office or OSP workload, but if there, I was in North Bend last night. If you don't know, I'm the SWAT team commander for Coos County. I was in North Bend last night lobbing gas into a house because we had an incident there. So jurisdiction isn't really something we run into. And to drive home your point, obviously, Bandon has an innate fear, a legitimate innate fear of fire.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons we came up with the fire evac plan. But yeah, if there's somebody out in the greater Bandon area we're referring to now, and they are doing something that's danger to the community or yourself, you can call us and we will come deal with it. The sheriff's office is overwhelmed and undermanned, and you're looking typically at a 30-45 minute response. So if you're on the outskirts of Bandon and you have a transient out there who's in the middle of gorse, we've been dealing with this quite a bit actually, in town too. Transients lighting fires in the woods and stuff. We had a transient about a month ago who said he was lost over near 11th and Grant, not just right around the corner from you, and he said he was lost and he was lighting a fire to signal for help. And yeah, it was, so that, but to answer your question, if it's happening in the greater Bandon area and it's a risk to your life, somebody else's life, or serious property, yeah, call. We'll respond. We have built up a pretty good police force, and we have the manpower now. It used to be there'd be one officer on in Bandon, and we didn't do much. We would, that's not the right way. We would strictly focus on city. We wouldn't go outside the county much at all right now, but we've kind of built up the force to a point where there's usually 2, sometimes 3 officers on, and we pride ourselves in being able to help the greater Bandon. Who here lives in city limits? Raise your hand. Let's do a little. Okay, put them down. Who does not live in city limits? Okay, see? So we have probably about a third of the people in here don't technically live in city limits, but I think we do a pretty good job of serving that population. I would guess if you broke down our calls for service, we probably spend 30 to 40% of our time doing things that are not Bandon police things, helping our neighbors just outside, or helping the county, or helping OSP. So anyhow, with that, so, I think I'll try to go chronologically.
Okay, but I don't want you to forget about explaining to people how we got the second sergeant. That's important to the people who.
So the question was the second sergeant. Dang it, I didn't want to say this. I wanted it to be my little secret. But
Well, I announced it last week here, or 2 weeks ago.
Well, let me ask you this: I present it to the population here and they vote that I should have a raise, are you going to advocate for that? So, question Madam Mayor has, or not question, but wanted to talk about the funding for the new sergeant, and I've kind of kept it pretty close to the vest. But I came up with this idea about 2 years ago because of some of the things we're already talking about, serving the greater Bandon area, which we spend a lot of time on. I went to one of the cash cows in the area, Bandon Dunes, and I said, hey, we already come out here and we do quite a bit of police work when we shouldn't be doing it. How's about you kick me down some coin? And they're like, heck yeah. So it took we went through this process. Initially, they were gonna finance an officer and his equipment and his vehicle for us to patrol Bandon Dunes. And we had this all kind of worked out. And then there was a turnover in leadership out there, and it kind of got put on the back burner. And then we kind of it took like 2 years of meetings and me begging and wrangling, but now we've kind of closed the deal. So Bandon Dunes is initiated a self-imposed tax on themselves. So they are charging their visitors 1% tax. That 1% tax goes into an account, which is quarterly paid to the city of Bandon for police services. We now go out there and respond. We were already doing it, we just weren't getting paid. We probably did 50 to 60% of the work for the sheriff's office. So we go out and respond to calls, and we are responsible for patrolling Bandon Dunes property to the tune of a couple $100,000. So.
Yeah.
Okay, but explain that the Bandon Dunes already gave, was it 6% to the county? So if
So I don't know I've heard that. I don't know the facts
I know
of
the
it.
facts. $1.5 million from Bandon Dunes goes to Coos County every year, and 60% of that goes to the sheriff's office, and the rest goes for a South Coast tourism. So if it weren't for the Bandon Dunes and the amount of money that they give to the sheriff's office, if you think they're in trouble now, they would be in extreme
True,
trouble.
yeah.
Let's incorporate them.
So if you didn't,
I wish we could.
right? Oh my goodness, that would
God,
be
would
nice.
that be?
That would be
people
nice.
that are in the Bandon
Yeah.
mailing address.
So if you didn't hear the mayor, what she was saying was that Bandon Dunes contributes a significant amount of money to the Coos County Sheriff's Department and the county, and they do. And part of these negotiations were, because once I put this badge on, I found out that I became like 40% politician and 60% police officer. And one of the things I found out was we had to make sure the sheriff's office was going to get mad at us if we were going to steal this money from them. And they were not cutting any funding to the sheriff's office.
Right.
So what they're giving us is on top of what they already contribute. So the sheriff's getting a big
Yeah,
fat check
they're
for
getting big bucks.
nothing. So,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah, so he's happy. I feel like, did we ever get to you? Sorry, I'm trying to go in chronological order.
That's okay.
You and you were next. What was your question?
I was gonna say, for, my family and I, say we have a homeless person on our property because we rent it from my grandparents and we're outside of city limits. What is the legal standard for a renter that wants a homeless off their property?
So the question was, what is the standard for a renter to get the transient off their property?
Yes.
It's not really different. If you have constructive control, so if you own it, rent it, or you're the manager of a property, you have the legal authority to get them off.
Okay.
Typically, I won't say you should do this, but it's well within your rights to go out and talk to them, be like, hey dude, what are you doing? Get off, like this gentleman, get off my property. Oh, okay, if they agree, then the problem's solved. If they say, F you, I'm not getting off your property, then call us and then we'll come out and drag them off by the ear. So it's completely, if you don't feel comfortable with confronting them or talking to them, that's fine, we can do that. But it's well within your right to go out and talk to them and say, hey, you're not supposed to be here, kick rocks. Now, a quick note on that, because people get confused on trespass. Like this gentleman, what was your name again?
John.
John caught transient on your property and trespassed,
Yeah,
right?
and the Bandon Police came out and
In the county, correct?
it was in the county, but I own city.
I think I remember, you're like the last house on Riverside.
Yeah,
Right,
so I
right.
have city and county, so it's a problem. that
Oh,
way.
yeah.
They came out, and I'd like to say that Liza, who works for, owns Riverside Gardens, who's lived here forever, she got with the county, and there was people living at the end of Riverside Drive. For a year, we tried to get them off.
Oh, yeah.
I got with Liza, she got with the county came out and trespassed them, and then Liza, on her own account, with my help, we cleaned up all the homeless camp, and she has a deal with the county that she'll take it to the dump and they don't charge her. So if you have a homeless encampment on your property, get with Liza, she might work with you, and
Who was Liza again?
Liza Ely. Liza Ely
By the
from
sea.
By the Sea Gardens,
Okay.
where she's
So-
well known. The gorse lady. She's in
Okay.
charge of all
yeah,
the
she
gorse
works for the
projects.
city on removing gorse, and
So that's something we need to explore, because the cleaning up of transient camps is
Yeah.
becoming an issue, and lot, like we had a very large one a while back, and we were going to send our public works out, but there's needles out there and stuff.
Yeah,
So that's something we got to figure out.
Picked
'cause
up
that's,
needles and stolen items, and it was unbelievable.
So
We
back
took
bef-
five truckloads.
Before I forget, back kind of to cover your point, anyone has the ability. But what the point I was going to try and make is, if you, Joe Citizen, confront, it could be a transient or it could be your daughter's boyfriend or whatever, you want to trespass them, you can do that. You can say you're trespassing, get off my property, but it's not legally binding. It has to be done by a law enforcement officer and documented. So like he says, he finds a transient on his property, he says, hey, get out of here, you're trespassed. And the guy goes, okay, and he leaves. 2 days later, he's back, and you call us, say, I trespassed him, I want him arrested. That's not necessarily going to fly, because we need to document it with our dispatch. And everybody who we contact, probably a lot of you in this room, have what's called a name file. And that's anytime you call an ambulance, call fire department, call the police, you've been in a car accident, you get a concealed handgun permit, you have this file that's created. Trust me, all of our transients have them. It's documented in there. If you were to go into like Jordan Seymour or whoever, one of our, I guess Jordan's not a transient, but any of our transients, there it'll say trespass from McKay's, trespass from here, trespass. There's a long list, but it needs to be added to that list before we can take law enforcement action and arrest them. So I think this, I'm trying to stay in chronological order. Yes, ma'am.
Back to the Bandon news. So you said you guys are patrolling out there on their Round Lake property, but does that extend to like their Bradley Lake property?
Yeah.
All properties they own, so
All-
down the New River as well now?
We don't do anything in New. What do they have in New River?
That's where they're building that new golf course.
Yeah, but there's nothing. It's just property
Their
owned.
property.
Yeah. So good question. So we do go to the old Christian camp. We patrol out there. Had an overdose there. Actually, the day I missed, the same day I missed the last one, there was a overdose and a suicidal guy there. So we go to. We don't do anything in New. I mean, because I'm sure they own just fields of
Yeah.
property. We don't really do anything with that. Now, if they called us and said there's a transient camp down there, we might do something with that. We don't patrol it per se. We basically just patrol the golf course and the housing.
Isn't that in Curry County though?
New River?
It's just past, isn't it just past the crossings?
Yeah, I don't think New
Oh,
River
not-
is in.
oh,
It's
New-
close.
New River
Yeah,
itself
no.
is in Curry County, but the start
That
of the New
might
River
create
golf
a
course, yeah.
jurisdiction.
Yeah.
I forgot who's next. I don't think you've talked yet. We'll go with
When
you.
you take them off the property, how far do you take them?
Yeah, that's it. They
Step
go-
over the line, or do you take them, where do you take them?
That's a good question. She said, how far do you take them? It depends on what kind of attitude they have. If they're resistant, then we take them all the way to Coquille. A lot of times, we've been dealing with this so much, we will try to get them out of the area to de-escalate the situation, because it's not going to resolve the problem if, the transient is within eyesight of you and I literally drag them across the street. But it's a complicated situation. Sometimes us showing up makes it worse. That does happen. There's a couple of transients in the area who just really hate us, and us showing up makes it even worse. So it might be one, like if it's the guy I'm thinking of, getting him across the street off your property and then me leaving, probably the best case scenario. But a lot of times we'll try to get them to the bus stop. We have free bus vouchers. We'll try to get them away. It just kind of depends on who it is, what situation it is. Here in Bandon, we have an interesting homeless population because, like I said earlier, we have 15 to 20 regulars, and then we just see a lot of seasonal ones that blow into town for a week, steal a bunch of crap from McKay's, and then they blow out of town. And it's interesting because we have this communication system at the PD called Evertel, and you'll see, oh, we got a new one in town. Here's his or her picture, stole some beer from Ray's, did whatever transients do. They're set up over here at this camp. We're seeing a big trend right now in breaking into abandoned homes. There's several homes behind Ray's that are unoccupied, whether it's the occupant has passed away or it's that person who lives in California who's never here, and they seek these homes out and they break into them and they set up, and it's kind of a pain. But the officers are doing a real good job of identifying them and then patrolling them at night. And I'll see it on our Evertel. Oh, that houses can see 89 Michigan right behind Ray's. It's all locked up, nobody in there. And then 2 days later, oh, back door, 89 Michigan broken, someone's in there again. So they're doing a pretty good job sniffing that stuff out. But it's a lot of law enforcement is reactive. I mean, we react to what the criminals are doing. So we're trying. We'll go with him.
I lived in this area for 10 years. Up to my third year in Bandon, but before I went to Jail. And
Could you give him the mic? You can't hear anything.
I'll try and repeat what he says. I don't know if I have enough cord to get over there.
I hear a lot of frustration.
Oh, it's longer than I thought.
I hear a lot of frustration with law enforcement, jail space, and prosecutors. And I'm frustrated because every time they have a levy, it always fails. It has nothing to do.
Speak into the mic.
Okay, it has nothing to do with
Perfect.
politicians in Salem. It has nothing to do with. It's just simply unwillingness of people here in this county to for some money. So okay. Anyway.
So,
I got you some more cords so
Okay.
everyone can be on mic.
so he was.
You mentioned about your frustration with the.
So, did you have a question, or I'm not trying to be rude, but
Probably of your comment.
so basically, you're just saying that the people are frustrated with the way things are going because the levies don't pass.
No, the levy doesn't pass.
What's your question? I'm missing.
Okay.
Say it close to the mic.
I feel a lot of frustration. People like to blame the politicians. People like to blame. What really blame lies with the residents of Coos County.
Because they're not voting for the
That's
levy.
right.
Yeah,
It's been
exactly.
failing all the time.
I see.
And what is your frustration with it? I mean, you're talking about taking people to go kill, and they're released right away.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with Salem. It has nothing to do with it. Just strictly with the. Okay, I really don't have a question.
You're just venting. Venting, yeah. No, trust me, it's you guys' frustration. I feel it, and I see it. There's nothing worse than looking a victim in the eyes and basically saying, "There's nothing I can do." I mean, I hate that. It's giving me chills just thinking about it right now, because a lot of us that got into this job, believe it or not, want to help people, want to try and solve problems, and there's nothing worse than showing up on scene and being like, there's nothing I can do, you know. So it is extremely frustrating. I get it. And we've gotten pretty creative with some of our, I'm not going to talk about the tricks we use, but we've had to start coming up with ways around that. You know what I mean? If the jail doesn't work, there's other things we can do. We have enough officers. Like, let's just say, theoretically speaking, we have a troublemaker in town and he's raining hell, and he wants to go to Port Orford, and we have 3 officers on. Maybe he ends up in Port Orford. We couldn't do that before when we had 1 officer on, because I can't send an officer to Port Orford when there's only 1 officer on. So there's some creative things we're trying to do to solve these problems. I know. Well, I shouldn't say solve the problem. Defer that problem
Defer
to
'em.
different jurisdictions.
Exactly.
That was the politician.
Exactly. No, you're right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just one last.
One last one. I don't believe you.
Get it on the microphone. We can't hear you.
Oh, you
Hold it
hear
close to
me,
your
huh?
mouth.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I just feel like it would be helpful if we knew what crimes were happening, and the worst ones, if we all phoned like the governor. Or somebody up in Salem, because I get things on Facebook every once in a while, and she wants to know what I think about this or that, and I'd like to be able to tell her we've got a problem here, and the police cannot do anything about it. You know, I mean, if everybody
The
calls.
governor knows. The governor knows. Are we speaking about something specific or just?
Oh, no, just anything that happens.
Okay, yeah.
But just hound them, you don't just call
Yeah.
once.
No, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Exactly.
Right. You'd want to. So she was just commenting about educating the governor on some of the issues we've discussed.
They know.
I would think they know, and I mean, your local representative, your state representative would be your first step there. I don't know the governor. You do what you want and what you need. By all means, you should be able to contact your governor, but I think your state rep is where you
Right.
start with that. Yes, sir.
I was gonna say for like reporting things like an accident that happens, because I live out on Ruby Loop, but I work at the what used to be called the eating station for anyone that's lived here a long time. a lot of times I walk to work on Bills Creek Road, and a lot of times the county, especially on the one side where you walk by the Harvard Street apartments, they don't keep the brush trimmed there. So I've had times where I couldn't get off the road and I've had a vehicle come right at me. Whose area of responsibility is that? Is that the public works or the county road?
So you're talking about brush abatement on Bills Creek Road?
Yeah,
Is it-
because the grass grows up through there, and a lot of times I can't get off the road because, like,
Walk on the other side of the road.
well, if I'm coming to work, say this way,
Yeah. I mean, I hear what you're saying. It's county roads department would maybe be, I don't think our public works is going to go out there and trim the brush, but you could try them. You could,
No,
again, our
no.
public works department, our public
They're
works
not
department
going to. They're
is pretty
swamped.
overworked and understaffed.
It's not in the
Um,
city limits, we're not gonna go out there.
Yeah.
But as far
I would try the county roads department, see if they can trim it. Back to her point, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. It's not something the police aren't gonna go out there with brush clippers and trim the edges.
and I know that, but I was like, I wonder if they know who I need to say, hey, you have brush on the road, people walk on this road.
Yeah, I'd try the county roads department.
County road department.
Where I'd start. They might-
Here's a real general note. When there needs cleaning up, when a situation is messy and it needs cleaning up and we can't rely on the government to do it, strong men in the community need to grab a weed whacker and clean it up.
I like it. He's empowering the population to take care of themselves. Just real quick before I forget, on the Facebook stuff, I will say, because I think we got you've opined that you want more information from the police. We'll work on that, I promise you. I would just caution a little bit about Facebook information. A lot of times it's not accurate. I mean, a lot of times it is, but just be careful going down that road. I mean, I operate a lot outside of the city of Bandon with any kind of tactical operations or search warrants and stuff like that. And a lot of times my wife will text me, what's going on? And there's 3 dead. And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? We're serving a drug warrant. Because Facebook will say this, that, and that. So just be careful eating that,
Could we get the
sandwich.
police report on there?
What's that?
Could we get the police report? We used to get the police report.
No, we will not post police reports on Facebook. You can come into the police department and request any report you want, but we're not going to post police reports on Facebook.
A lot of us
That would
don't
be
use
so-
Facebook.
Well, so I mean, that would be so labor intensive. So many police reports. Plus, it would just burn up our
But I
data.
don't think, but weren't you just talking about the record, the police report that you would find in the paper?
Like we used to have in the Western
Yeah,
world, you know,
Oh,
He didn't mean
not
it.
a,
He
oh, so
didn't
like
mean
a,
a police
like a,
report.
okay, I misunderstood. I thought you meant police reports like for the individual
No,
criminals.
just,
Pages.
Our average child abuse report is like 8 pages
no,
long.
That's not what he
No,
meant.
Yeah.
just a
Yes, ma'am.
general.
Oh, I was just going to say, I agree with John and the gentleman down there that the increased information is going to help the community get active. And when they know what's going on, where you were saying we're living in La La Land, yeah.
So more information on what
And
the
then they're
police are
going to be
doing.
more likely to vote for things when
Right.
they understand that the situation has changed and that they are living.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Even something in the Baltimore weekly little, what used to be the
Coffee break.
If they even put something in there, that's something that is free. You can pick it up anywhere if you don't have computer access.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I tell every one of my officers when I give them a badge, who gives you this badge? And they're like, you do. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
the people do. The people give the badge. And I'm hearing you guys say you want more information. So we'll get more information. I work for you, so we will make that happen. I make that promise. We'll start releasing more information. We'll come up with that. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to make people aware of the fact that jails do not solve problems.
Jails do not solve problems.
They don't. There are many countries on this earth where they don't throw as many people in jail, and they don't have as many problems.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So we've reached a point in this country where between in my humble opinion, the over-chemicalization of our population. Be that legally, illegally, whatever, the mental health pendulum. If you don't know, back in the 40s and 50s, my wife, her job at the courthouse, she had to, for a while, she had to scan documents in, and she would come home all mad at me. She's like, rah, 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 rah. I'm like, what's going on? And she'd be like, back in the 1900s, if a husband thought his wife burned dinner, he could get her committed to a mental hospital. I'm like, what? So our mental health facilities back in the 1900s up to the 1950s, we were over committing people for everything. And then the pendulum swung so far that like we couldn't commit anybody, you know, and now we're in this crisis. Yeah, so it's a strange. So if you add all these factors in, you know, it's you're not necessarily wrong. Jail and prisons aren't necessarily a fix. They are working on the sobering center. If you're not aware, the sheriff's office has been working with Advanced Health for quite a while. The bottom floor of the Coos County Jail used to be juvenile detention. That's another problem. If you don't know, if a juvenile commits a crime, it has to be pretty serious, and we have to take them all the way to Roseburg now. So they're working on what's called the sobering center, and if someone's intoxicated and just being a nuisance and kind of, you know, requires a police response but doesn't necessarily warrant going to jail, we can take them to the sobering center, which will be below the jail. That's still in the works. That's as far as I know, it's funded. It's a thing. The sheriff is just trying to clear out space underneath the jail. They were using that for evidence and stuff, so they're trying to make that open. So hopefully 2026 we will have a sobering center, which kind of well, I think that would be a big help. Anything else? No one wants to know my favorite sports team or yes sir.
As far as like information goes, I know they used to do this. North Bend PD, as well as the sheriff's office, used to do this. Coffee with a cop. I don't know if that's something Bandon PD will be into.
That's what we're doing right now, buddy.
That's what we're doing.
Last time I went to Pacific View, anybody see that picture? I don't know if it made you must have. I went to Pacific View to do Coffee with a Cop, and there was a lady who'd seen many winters, and she had some mental health problems, and she started groping me. If you ever run into Officer Owens, ask her to see the picture. It was. We were posing for a photo, and her hand was creeping, and I'm like, let's keep it above the belt there. And she just kept grabbing my rear end. So I don't do Coffee with a Cop anymore. That's why I'm keeping all you in front of me. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any such thing you hear about it, citizen's arrest? What is?
So that's a good question. Citizen's arrest is something that's on TV. We have the same thing. It's in Oregon. It's called private person's arrest. Every one of you has the legal right to arrest someone, but that can be tricky because you open yourself up to a lot of liability. And if you decide to arrest her for something and she says no, F you, and you guys get into a wrestling match or whatever, it kind of, that's where you're not educated on the use of force and what kind of a force is appropriate for what kind of crime. You know, if she scratches your car in the McKay's parking lot and you say, you're under arrest, and she goes, no, I'm not, I'm leaving, and then you guys get in a fight and you beat her up, you're probably going to be the one that ends up going to jail, getting the lawsuit over what's a property crime. So it's kind of confusing, but yeah, you do have the right to do what's called a private person's arrest. We deal with it a lot with shoplifters at the stores, McKay's and Ray's. If they get a shoplifter, there's a private security or a manager. Say, this guy stole beer, I'm not letting him leave, and we'll go and we'll deal with that. It is a thing. Yeah, just be very careful. You know, you got to weigh the value of the arrest over your safety. You know, obviously, if you saw somebody hit somebody with an axe, you know, and you want to hold them down until I get there, cool. Let's deal with that. But you know, if 2 weeks ago I responded to maybe I don't know if you saw my Facebook post about 911 abuse of 911. You see that? Yeah. So after that post, I had someone call 911 and complain because the neighbor was trespassing on their property and they'd been trespassed before. And I took a picture. The neighbor moved a bird bath 6 inches to the right to be able to mow the grass, and that bird bath went on their property, and they were trespassing, wanted them arrested, and blah blah blah. And And yeah, so I'm like, I am not gonna waste my time on this. Yes, sir.
I couldn't help but, when I read that post, I couldn't help but kind of start laughing because I work at the stage and restaurant, and I was telling one of our front of house staff about it, and I'm just like, there are legitimate uses for 911. I don't call that one of them.
It's abused daily in Coos County. People call 911 over the dumbest things. I mean, it's God bless our dispatchers. They are a frustrating. I mean, they deal with a lot of frustration. With us, we see the problems and we can fix the problems. I don't know how they don't bang their head on their keyboards dealing with the problems just over the phone. So, yes, ma'am. I like that view. You're behind bars. Any more of that?
In your opinion, is problems that we're having here in Bandon typical of what's taking place up and down the coast, or do we have areas that have more problems than others?
So the question was, the problems we're dealing with here in Bandon, are they happening up and down the coast? Is that what you're saying? What specific problems?
Yeah.
Crime, homelessness, the typical.
Well, I think crime and homelessness, I think Coos County and Curry County are two of the fiscally challenged counties in in Oregon.
Yep.
I think Curry County's got a lot worse than us, if you don't know. I don't know. I mean, I can't speak intelligently about what all other cities and counties are. I think we have it a little worse than everyone else because we'll go to trainings and stuff in law enforcement, and we'll tell other agencies and other officers about those. Oh, we can't arrest that guy for that. Our jail will never take him. And they're like, what? Because I mean, just in the last 4 or 5 years, a warrant arrest. There's a ton of warrants out there. That's where, that can be a whole bunch of different things, but a judge signs an order, says, officer shall take into custody and shall transport this person to jail. Pretty clear, right? We were arresting people for warrants and the jail's like, nope, you gotta give them a citation. So in my opinion, and this first started in COVID, but it's trickled down now. It's a thing we're still doing. In my opinion, if somebody wanted to push the issue,
Right.
I arrest the Madam Mayor. She's got a warrant for arrest. I arrest her, and it says you shall take into custody, and the jail's like, no, you got to cite and release. So I give her a citation. I think you could articulate that the officer has committed the crime of contempt of court by not following the judge's order. That was happening daily, and still does. It's a weird little world we live in right now. So. But don't go citizens arresting one of my officers, because I've had someone try to citizens arrest me before while I was on duty. Yeah, it was pretty funny. I even put it in the out dispatch. I'm like, he tried to citizens arrest me, but I told him no. I don't remember where, it wasn't that long ago. It was like 6 months ago too. I'm pretty notorious for my comic radio outbursts because I'm very, as you might have gathered, I'm kind of a smart aleck. I was coming to work one morning about 2 years ago. And I came on and dispatch was like, I got a report of a dead deer on the side of the road by 101 in Harvard or Grand or something like that. I'm like, okay, do you want me to go make him more dead and shoot him again or something? And he's like, oh, no. And then my phone started ringing from people all over the county. Oh my God, I spit out my coffee. That was super cool. All right, any more questions?
I'd like to thank you for putting up with
Oh, this has been a pleasure. You guys don't know the.
Maybe you could come in. We have, spaces every week, and maybe you could once every 2 months or something.
Yeah, I could try to be here more
This question
often.
and answer thing, I think, is really good for the community.
Yeah, I agree. You guys came up with some good questions, and I think the average citizen doesn't necessarily understand exactly what's going on. And how could you? I mean, again, with the lack of information from us, but also just it's super complicated. Like every day we're rallying up at the PD and like, can we do this? I don't know. What do you think? Can we do it? I don't know. Let's call the attorneys. And we call the district attorney, but can we do this? And they're like, I don't know. Let me ask my boss. And then they ask their boss and they're like, yeah, you can do that. I'm like, cool, we can do it. But that's there's so many different legal perspectives. And I was just discussing, where was it? Sometime today. Was it with you guys earlier? No, it was back at a department head meeting in the city. We were talking about how convoluted things are. And if you don't know, in the state of Oregon, the law or the legal code that dictates what we do is called ORS, Oregon Revised Statute. So if you wanted to Google the ORS for trespass, you'd put ORS for trespass, and it would give you the number and what the statute is. And you'd think that would be pretty easy, but just about every statute has what's called case law. So you might read the ORS on what a trespass is, but you also have to go look at State of Oregon versus Myers from 1996, which isn't easy to find, and find the case law that goes with that. So it can be very convoluted, and like I said, a lot of times, I wouldn't say a lot of times, but often you might see an officer not take action, and you're like, that guy's lazy and doesn't want to do his job. It's probably not the case. It's just there's so many little things that go into it. Trust me, we love arresting people and taking them to jail and solving problems, but oftentimes we can't anymore. It's very tricky.
From your perspective, what is the biggest problem we have?
From my perspective, what is the biggest problem?
Police perspective.
There's a bunch of things that come into my mind. Honestly, I think in Bandon, we're pretty fortunate. We have a pretty strong community support, pretty fiscally sound, like we're not hurting. That's the number one problem in law enforcement and in Coos County. But if we're talking Bandon, what is the number one problem? I'd probably say homelessness, transients. I mean, and that kind of coincides with, so it'd be like a three-pronged thing
Drugs
between
and alcohol.
mental health, controlled substances, and homelessness.
Right.
And they interlink and link up. That's what we deal with probably the most. Yeah. There's another hand go up, or are we done? You're leaning in your chair like you have a question.
I'm gonna say, I used to work at Ace Hardware for about a week, and back to your point on how people abuse 911, I can't help but feel sorry for you guys when people do that, because you're just thinking, really, they called us for this ridiculous reason? We have other pressing things to do?
Yeah, but you don't have to deal with that. Dispatch.
Well, both. Yeah, I imagine dispatch is more frustrated because so when we went to the consolidated dispatch, I think if you don't know, we used to be dispatched through Coos County Sheriff's Office, and for reasons unclear to me, that dissolved, and we went to Coos Bay, which is now North Coos Dispatch. So we're actually dispatched out of Coos Bay Police, so to speak, and those dispatchers kind of do a little bit better job. I think, no offense, but the Bandon population is a little bit needy. Like, they would call for certain reasons that were not police related, and our sheriff's department would just cycle that right through to us and let us deal with it. I think the North Coos Dispatch does a better job weeding them out to appropriate things that aren't, because people would just call. I've had people call dispatch and ask for directions, if the puffins are out on the rock. I mean, just these weird. If you don't know who Sarah is my record specialist, my right-hand man at the police department. If you ever get a chance to meet her, thank her. She's literally the hardest working employee I have, and I could not, no joke, could not do this job without her. I'll hear her take calls, and she's taking calls, and I can hear it in her voice, and she's like, she does these air hand throws, and she's like, and I know she's having a bad day, and it's usually something like that. Like, people will call and just ask her some of the strangest, weirdest non-police things. Like, Google it, for crying out loud. Anything else?
Thank you for doing this.
Okay, so thank you.
I wish you had a bigger crowd.
Oh,
This shows.
I don't know. I kind of feel like I got raked over the coals. I think a bigger crowd, but I don't know what would. No. I mean, and don't think that I and we are not approachable. Just because we had this meeting, it's good. But you can stop by the police department anytime I'm there. I'm not one of those individuals that's going to tell you to make an appointment. Stop by if you have questions or concerns or comments. Again, I work for you, and we work for you. I think a lot of officers and a lot of law enforcement does not realize that. They don't understand that they're a public servant. So I try to create a culture where our officers understand that they work for the population and try to serve the population as best we can. And that's where we're at. Anything else? Going once, going twice. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Very good.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to come